The other night, Suzanne Caskey celebrated her 64th birthday at her favorite restaurant in town. The staff at Bella Italia made her feel like a queen, surprising her with cake, and even better, with a song just for her. It's safe to say that night, Suzanne felt like she was in heaven.
Well, have you ever heard Happy Birthday played like that before?
And then, the best gift of all, a man by the name of
Don Carlos
Hidalgo.
Soberon.
I call him Carlos.
Don Carlos Hidalgo Soberon.
That's him. Don Carlos Hidalgo Soberon turned to Suzanne and told her, "It's all because of you. It's all because of you." Suzanne knew what Don Carlos meant, and so did everyone else.
Un momento, un momento. You look at the view, you look at San Miguel. It's beautiful, but you can also hear it. It's not just a visual. It's a feeling, it's a sound.
This sound you won't hear anywhere else. Gil Gutierrez on the guitar.
Well, Gil is, I think, is the best in Mexico.
Pedro Cartas on the violin.
The violin was made for him and he was made for a violin.
Pedro was a child prodigy in Cuba. His talent took him to places others in Cuba were forbidden to see. 20 years after this picture was taken, Pedro Cartas was on tour. He decided then to turn his back on his country. He knew he couldn't return to Cuba, and he didn't.
And you can live with that pressure over you. You can live in that way. This is me, my mother, my father.
Pedro defected from Cuba, knowing he might never see his mother or father again, his father, who is now dying.
I prefer don't talk about that. It's pain every day, year by year.
Pedro settled in Gil's town, San Miguel de Allende. The historic Mexican town surrounded by mountains, a magnet for artists. Now home to two of the most talented musicians in the country who together scrape by to make a living.
Well, I'm going to show you now this guitar. This guitar is 12 string. I bought it here in San Miguel for 600 pesos.
A big payday for them.
About $100 a night.
Their stage, a restaurant in the middle of nowhere.
I came to San Miguel 3 Christmases ago. Friends kept saying they were going to hear these two guys play gypsy jazz. And I was so intrigued by just the words and wondered what in the world that could be about that we decided to go on Christmas Eve. I had never heard music like that before. the recurring thought for me throughout the performance was, mercy, mercy, what is this about?
San Miguel is a 9-hour drive from the border of Laredo, Texas. When you get here, you just might not want to leave, and you just might bump into a woman on a street corner with a mission.
It's very easy to meet people in San Miguel in the first place. If I saw a person standing on a corner in San Miguel with one of those city maps, obviously lost and obviously a visitor, they were fair game for me, because I would immediately go up to them and say, let me help you find where you're going, and let me tell you about this music that is going to be played this weekend.
That's what she told the older couple who moved here. The couple left everything behind in America to begin a new life here.
Do you know what I realized we haven't heard since we moved here?
What?
A leaf blower.
That's right.
He was depressed, she was hopeful.
I would say his spirit was lost, absolutely lost, before we came here, because there was nothing to look forward to in his mind. It was over.
Suzanne knocked on Emily's door. She'd been dog sitting next door and welcomed the couple, telling Emily and her husband, you must go. You must go. You must hear Gil and Curtis.
And I said, well, it's a mix of flamenco and tango with Duke Ellington thrown in, and a touch of New Orleans, and some Celtic and a Middle Eastern sound, and a mean version of Sweet Georgia Brown. The fire of a gypsy violin and this Spanish classical guitar like you have never heard it played before. And it is pure magic.
They didn't go. Not that night, not the next week, or the next month. Suzanne kept pestering them.
And after a while, I was so tired of hearing about these guys, I said, they can't be as good as she's saying. But then the kids and grandkids came to visit, and we were looking for a place to go, and I was just, I know what let's do. Let's go down to that restaurant where those guys are playing and check them out.
Doc Severinsen sat in this chair that night, and when Gil and Curtis began playing,
they played Sweet Georgia Brown, and I looked across at Doc, who had his arms in the air, waving his hands like this. His eyes, he can somehow make his eyes do this, and had his tongue sticking out, waggling it back and forth, and I thought, that's just the way I feel when I hear them play. And so I went over to him then and said, it is not gracious or ladylike to say, I told you so, but I told you so. And he said, you have the right to say that to me for the rest of your life. And I said, aren't they amazing? He said, they are more than amazing.
I was thinking something like a...
And even more so now.
Well, one of two things is happening. You're either glad to see me or they legalized glue sniffing in Burbank.
For nearly 30 years, Doc had Johnny and Ed.
What is it? That's not real. Don't tell me that's a real skin.
You can't buy one of these.
Talk about a threesome with perfect synergy, Johnny, Ed, and Doc.
Now, at the age of 80,
And Now heal Pedro and Doc.
Doc is part of a new trio. A new life with a new name.
Carlos Hidalgo Soberon. And but you know, I mean, I slip every once in a while and say Doc Severinsen. I don't think I'll ever get away from that.
Don Carlos Hidalgo Soberon.
On stage again, where he belongs.
Gracias. Doc Severinsen, Don Carlos Hidalgo.